Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is so great to see all of you here, leaders and professionals all in one place, ready to map out the future. And a huge part of creating that future, as you know, is our ability to constantly learn and adapt. I mean, think about it. Your single greatest professional asset isn't what you already know, it's how well you acquire new knowledge. Today, we are going to dive deep into the science of how to sharpen that exact tool. So let's start with a really important question. I want you to picture those big, ambitious goals you've got on your vision board. Got them? Okay. Now think about the way you usually go about learning the new skills or information you need to make those goals happen. Are those habits, the ones you probably picked up back in school, are they actually helping you as a busy professional? Or could they be the very thing that's holding you back?
Here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about something called the learning trap, and it's something a lot of us fall into. Then, we'll look at some really popular strategies that, turn out to be pretty ineffective. After that, we'll check out some more promising contenders before we unveil the two real superpowers that are backed by some serious research. And finally, we'll wrap it all up into a practical toolkit that you can start using like tomorrow.
All right, let's jump into the learning trap. You see, the real issue here is that most of us were never actually taught how to learn. We just kind of figured it out through trial and error, right? We reread our notes, we highlighted our textbooks, and we started to associate that feeling of putting in a lot of effort with effective learning. But here's the thing. As leaders, our most precious resource is time. We just can't work harder. We absolutely have to learn smarter. And that means swapping out those old, inefficient habits with techniques that are actually proven to work. This brings us perfectly to our next section, which I like to call the Hall of Very Colorful Shame. This is where we're going to look at the most popular, the most common learning techniques that, according to a massive review of the science, just don't cut it. And I'll give you a heads up, you're probably going to recognize some of your own go-to strategies here. So, a huge research paper by a psychologist named Dunlosky and his team rated 10 common learning techniques based on all the available evidence. And just look at what ended up at the bottom of the list with low utility: highlighting, rereading, and summarization. I mean, these are the holy trinity of studying for millions of people. But the research is crystal clear. Highlighting doesn't actually boost your performance, rereading gives you pretty limited benefits, and writing a good summary is a lot harder than it looks. It's basically a trifecta of wasted time and effort. Let's just zero in on the number one offender for a second: highlighting. It feels so good, doesn't it? You take this dense page of text and turn it into this beautiful rainbow work of art. It feels so productive. But the science tells us this feeling is what's called an illusion of competence. Yeah, your hand is busy, the page looks colorful, but your brain, it's pretty much just a passive observer. Highlighting might help you find a specific fact later, but it does next to nothing to help you understand it, connect it to other ideas, or remember it in the long run. In fact, one study found it can even make it harder to draw conclusions because you're so focused on the individual trees that you completely miss the forest. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The researchers themselves point out the fundamental problem. The two strategies that people love to use the most are the very ones that deliver the least benefit. It's like trying to build a skyscraper with a plastic toy shovel. You can put in all the effort in the world, but you're just using the wrong tool for the job. Clearly, we need a better set of tools. And that leads us right into section 3, the promising contenders. So now we're moving up the food chain a little bit. These next couple of techniques are rated as having moderate utility. They are a huge step up from those passive methods we just talked about, mainly because they force your brain to get off the sidelines and actually get involved in the learning process. So, what are these contenders? Well, first up is something called elaborative interrogation. Basically, this is channeling your inner 3-year-old and just constantly asking why. So when you read a new fact, instead of just highlighting it, you stop and ask, why is that true? How does this fit with what I already know? This process literally builds new connections in your brain. The second one is self-explanation. This is where you pause and explain a new idea to yourself, in your own words, like you were trying to teach it to someone else. Both of these are really good because they force you to engage, but they're not quite the top-tier superpowers we're looking for. Not yet. And now, we've arrived at the main event, your new learning superpowers. After sifting through all the evidence, researchers found 2 techniques that stood head and shoulders above everything else. They're rated high utility because the benefits are massive, they work for all kinds of different subjects, and they lead to durable, long-term learning. Honestly, these are the real game changers. Our first superpower is practice testing. Okay,
Right now, I want you to erase everything you think about the word testing. Forget the grades, forget the anxiety, forget the red pen. In this context, a test isn't a tool to judge you. It's one of the most powerful learning tools we have, period. Every single time you force your brain to pull information out of it, whether that's with a flashcard, a practice question, or just closing your eyes and trying to remember the key points from a meeting, you're not just checking what you know, you are actively strengthening the neural pathway to that information, making it easier to find next time. For a leader, this is the difference between having that critical piece of data right there at your fingertips in a high-stakes negotiation versus just kind of sort of remembering you saw it on a report somewhere. This slide shows the difference perfectly. On one side, you have rereading. It's passive. It creates this false sense of familiarity because the words on the page look familiar, so you trick yourself into thinking you know it. On the other side, you have active recall, or practice testing. And yes, it's harder. You have to struggle a bit to pull that information out of your brain. But that struggle is exactly what builds strong, durable memory pathways. It's the difference between looking at a map of a city versus actually trying to navigate the streets on your own. One feels easy. The other one actually teaches you the layout of the city.
Superpower number 2 is called distributed practice, but you can just think of it as spacing, and it is the mortal enemy of cramming. The idea is incredibly simple. Spacing out your learning over time is way, way more effective than trying to jam it all into one long session. You see, every time you come back to a topic after some time has passed, you force your brain to work a little harder to retrieve it, and that effort strengthens the memory. This means forgetting isn't the enemy of learning, it's actually a crucial part of learning. Letting yourself forget a little bit makes the next attempt to remember it even more powerful. So how do you actually do this in practice? It's beautifully simple. Step 1, you have your first learning session where you encounter the new material. Step 2, and this is the most critical part, you wait. And I don't mean for a few minutes. I mean you wait a day or maybe a few days. Then, step 3, you come back for a second session where you actively try to retrieve that information. Then you just repeat that cycle over time, and that is how you achieve real long-term mastery. And if you need proof, here it is. This is from a classic study that tested how much people remembered a month after their final study session. Just look at these results. The group that crammed it all in at once, they remembered only about 20% of the material. The group that spaced their sessions just one day apart did more than twice as well. But the real jaw-dropper is the group that spaced their sessions 30 days apart. Even though it probably felt a lot harder while they were learning, they retained a staggering 75% of the information. The takeaway couldn't be clearer. More space between your learning equals more durable learning. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. We've talked about the trap, the bad tools, and the incredible superpowers. Now, let's pull it all together into a simple, actionable framework I call your Leader's Learning Toolkit. And it's as easy as this: stop, start, and schedule. So here's your action plan. It's 3 steps. First, stop. Just stop mindlessly rereading things and coloring your books with highlighters. Recognize that these are low-yield activities that just trick you into thinking you're learning. Second, start. Start weaving practice testing or active recall into your daily life. After a meeting, take 30 seconds to recall the 3 main takeaways. Before a presentation, quiz yourself on the key numbers. Make retrieval a constant habit. And third, schedule. Be intentional. Instead of cramming for that big talk the night before, schedule 3 shorter sessions spaced out over the week. Plan to review key project details not just once, but at spaced out intervals. Stop, start, schedule. That's your new toolkit. I want to leave you with one final thought to take with you. I want you to look at your vision board, either the physical one you have or the one you hold in your mind. Find that one big goal. Maybe it's launching a new venture, mastering a new technology, or leading your team through a massive change. Find the one that absolutely depends on you learning something new and making it stick. Well, now you have the tools. The only question left is, how are you going to use them to make that vision a reality? Thank you.